Well, hello there, my friends. Welcome to the Empowered Indie Artists YouTube channel. My name is Becky Willard. I own Vox Productions. I'm a music producer, audio engineer, and I love to mentor and coach independent artists who are really trying to build a sustainable music career. So you've come to the right place if you're an indie artist and you're just looking for guidance. Today's video is my answers to the 6 questions that you're supposed to ask a music producer. I released this video a little while ago, and when I wrote the original blog, I found myself answering the questions myself as if I was the one being interviewed. And so I just decided, hey, I bet maybe some people might be interested in hearing what kind of producer I am. And if by chance, after listening to this or watching it, you decide you're interested in working with me, I've put my artist application link in the description below. If you're listening to this podcast, go to voxfoxproductions.com/contact, and that will take you to the artist application. All right, so question number 1 that you're supposed to ask producers besides price. What is your philosophy as a music producer? Do you like to be transparent so that each artist has their own sound, or do you have a particular sound that is your signature in all of your productions? My answer is this. When working with an artist I've never worked with before, I ask a lot of questions. If they've already released music with other producers, we talk about what they do and don't like about those previous releases. So if they've never released music, the first thing I do is I have them create a playlist and put in their favorite music that would be where their music would belong. Like, this is a playlist and my music would fit on this playlist as well. I have them create that playlist. I also have a form that is just kind of asking a ton of questions about what they do and don't like about music. Like, what's a song that you just love the sound of it, you don't even really care what the lyrics are about, but you just love listening to it, or vice versa. What's a song where you just absolutely love the lyrics, but you hate the music and you just kind of deal with it because you love the lyrics so much? Or what are some other questions? What do you find annoying in music? Things like that. That tells me a lot about what an artist could potentially want in their music. A lot of my unofficial training as a producer came from recreating music productions to sound as close to the original song as possible, which meant I had a specific sound to create that was someone else's creation. I guess you could compare it to accurately sketching out a landscape or a figure in front of you versus painting your own image out of your imagination on a blank canvas. So I'm also a creative person, though. When someone sends me a demo that has just a vocal and a guitar, I can imagine in my mind what the finished product could potentially sound like. My approach is always whatever the artist is asking of me. Most of the time, the artist has a very general idea of what they want, so I add my own creativity to it, making sure the sounds are in line with what they've guided me towards. Once in a while, an artist points me to a specific sound, and at that point, I feel like I'm in the recreate mode. What this all means is that I really do tend to be more transparent, but I also really try to encourage artists to find their own sound instead of trying to replicate other things that they've already heard. And a lot of that comes from just asking questions and communicating quite a bit. Question number 2, how would you handle a scenario where I don't like something, I being the artist? Do you have a set number of revisions we can make? My answer, some may say I'm a people pleaser. And some say that that is actually a negative characteristic, including my therapist years ago. But I found that as a music producer, if I'm producing someone else's music, I'm not happy unless they're happy. And I honestly can't understand how producers get their own ego wrapped up when they're working on someone else's music. I just feel like I couldn't find gratification in being a music producer. I would just be an artist myself if I was really focused on doing what I wanted with the music, if that makes sense. So I just can't bear to say, oh, we only have 3 revisions. But that being said, I also do not like to be in the situation where I feel like I'm just chasing down sounds, or, we're starting a production over because an artist doesn't know what they want. And, now we're in experimental mode, but, it takes me like 4 hours to get an idea to come across fully. And then they're like, maybe not. I really don't have time to do that. So my approach is to, if that starts to happen, then I do put the brakes on and say, okay, we need to talk more. We need to get to the bottom of what we're doing here. And sometimes I might even want them sitting next to me. And that is an important note for myself as a producer. I get kind of stage fright, I guess you can call it. A lot of my production work I like to do by myself with no one watching. I feel like if someone's watching me, I'm too worried about them, second guessing me. I probably need to go to therapy. I have a lot of issues, but I'm more worried about what they think as I'm, trying different things or searching for a different sound. And if they're not in the room, I don't have to worry about it because I can hear in my head what I'm going for. And it just sometimes takes a little bit of time to dial that in. So anyway, back to this other question. If we're really not seeing eye to eye, then I would most likely want them to come sit by me and like, okay, let's just flip through some sounds. Let's play with some stuff and see if we can get something that you're happy about. Another point that is really important for artists to understand is that the sounds you are hearing right now will be out of date in a year or two. The top artists and top producers that are making tomorrow's hits, they are focused on being creative. New independent artists have a tendency to want their music to be familiar, to sound like something they've already heard. And basically, that's playing it really safe. And never trying out some new, unique production or mixing approach, it sounds safe. And you really aren't going to be an artist that makes a huge impact by playing it safe. Okay, let's just say that. The ones who hit the music scene with a splash, and I'm talking about like Billie Eilish or Lorde or John Bellion, they make a splash because they put out something that is new and fresh sounding, not regurgitated or rehashed. Most of the time. Sometimes it might be like the 1975, where the first time I heard them, I was like, oh my gosh, this is In Excess reincarnated. But there's a new, fresh approach to what they do. There's just some familiarity to it that for someone like me who grew up listening to In Excess back in the 80s, it was very familiar. But the deeper I dug into their music and listening to their content, I was like, oh wow, they're really not In Excess at all. They're very different, but there's some familiarity to it. That's really cool too. So it's kind of taking your influences and things that you love, but then combining it in some way that has never been done before. And now you're getting a fresh, new sound as a new independent artist. Question 3. Is this production completely work for hire, or do you have additional points or royalties on the back end you expect to collect? My answer is I almost always do a work for hire, which is just a set fee up front and no back end royalties. If you listened to my commentary on when I first present these questions, I talk about how some producers have actually held the production for ransom as they say, okay, but I want back end points. And I would never do anything like that myself. Never, ever. But this is really why I'm so passionate about making sure that artists understand what everything is, and so that they're not going to just take for granted that everyone is honest and ethical as I am. Okay. Question 4. Will there be additional costs for other musicians, for mix engineer, for mastering engineer? My answer, I mentioned I'm a people pleaser, right? Well, being a people pleaser means we don't like contention. We want everyone to love us. The only scenarios that make me want to quit being a music producer is when people aren't happy or say they are happy but thought it would cost less or AKA take less time. And because I run my own business, I have the freedom to charge what and however works best for me, right? But since I'm a people pleaser, I will always err on the side of giving folks more for their money. To make this happen, I've found that giving folks one price that includes everything, that just makes us all happy. Did I have to raise my price? Yes. But believe me, when artists are being nickeled and dimed to death, they really just want to know this is how much it's going to cost and not be blindsided every time you need to, oh, this is going to cost an extra. I mean, we're all that way, right? Wouldn't you say human nature, none of us want to be nickeled and dimed to death. But as a music producer, if I were keeping track of my hours and you didn't know until the end that a production, takes 10, 12, 15 hours, you might be shocked, right? Especially if my hourly rate is $75 an hour. If I say, oh, my rate to produce your song is $500, but I don't mention that I need to outsource or have someone else mix it, and I need to hire a guitar player, and I need to hire a mastering engineer, and then by the time it's done, it's double what you thought you were going to pay. So what I have done is just included everything in my quote that I send to an artist. This is what everything costs. It's a flat fee, work for hire. It includes our musicians. It includes the recording, the mixing, and mastering. What would you say is your strongest quality as a producer? And what is your biggest weakness? This is question number 5. My strongest quality as a producer, I'll say it again because I'm a people pleaser. I'm really just not happy unless you're happy. If we're talking simply about technical or musical know-how, I think my greatest strength is arranging and producing vocals. And of course, this makes sense because this is where it all started for me. When I was a kid, I was arranging harmony parts when I was just old enough to figure out how to record my voice with 2 tape recorders and how to multi-track. And, it was before apps and even home computers. I was doing it on tape recorders. But I also loved paying attention. I could really hear the detail and the nuance of singers and how certain effects were happening in a song. Like, ooh, that's so cool. How did they make that singer's voice sound like they were in a big arena? How did they make them sound like they were sitting right next to me? I was so fascinated by the effects of singers. And then, I was a vocal coach for 30 years and really understand singers and love working with singers because I am one and I just totally get where singers come from. I think a lot of music producers come from a different angle, usually from the music side, like, oh, I'm a guitarist and I've become a music producer. And the vocalists are kind of like a second thought, where for me, it's all about the vocals. I think vocals are the most important part of creations of music production. And you're not going to find a lot of producers that agree with that. But I think it's true. And they may not agree with it, but if the vocal's not right, then good luck getting a song to hit it big in today's consumer industry. My greatest weakness is probably not really a weakness, just a reality of the process of learning to produce. Since I have done so many recreation productions, thinking of something new, a new sound, a unique production approach is always a little hard for me. I am getting better at it. I'm a really creative person, but it's almost like I have to shift my brain to a different area in order to go to that place of creating something fresh rather than recreating a sound that I have in my head or that I've already heard and I'm trying to recreate it. There's always the caveat that the artist I am creating this new idea for may completely reject it too, which can really put a damper on the creative flow state. About 50% of the time, those unique creative ideas I get are rejected. So my brain wants to shut down the creativity. I am still working on this, but the longer I work with an artist, the more I start to know what they will and won't like. And so there are times where I'm like coming up with something I'm like, ooh, she's probably going to hate this. And I might keep going with it just in the hope, because I think it's cool, in the hope that she'll like it. And sometimes she will. And then other times she won't be. I'll be like, yeah, I didn't think you would. That is definitely reality. But hey, I just go with it. And, it's part of my job as the producer is to make sure that you love absolutely everything. Another weakness is, since vocals are the main focus for me, I really have a hard time creating a fully complete instrumental track until I have the vocals. Even if it's just a scratched vocal, I can really get it pretty close, about maybe 90% of the way there. But I can never really get it 100% until all of the elements are there, including the backing vocals, lead and backing vocals. Then I feel like that's like my favorite part, that final 10%, going from, okay, all the vocals are in, they're all edited and cleaned up and everything. Now I can round off the production, get the mix happening, get everything just sitting perfectly. That's my favorite phase. I'm still working on all of my skills as a producer and as a mix engineer. So I won't say that the fact that I'm still working on getting better is a weakness. Let's call it a strength. Number 6, where can I hear samples of songs you have produced? Well, I do have a link available in the description below. If you're listening to this as a podcast, I have them on my website at voxfoxproductions.com/music, and I have a playlist on there. I also have the Create With Us is on that same page. If you are interested in applying to work with me as a producer, I would be so interested in hearing from you. Thank you for joining me today. I really love that you guys are enjoying these videos and these podcasts. Please feel free to comment. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if there's anything more specific that you'd like me to talk about, any kind of training or tutorial you'd be interested in. I'd love to hear what you are interested in learning about. Thanks again. See you next time.